we are taught that when we actually meet with the teacher on the path, we should recognize that we have at last placed our feet on the course where we see our own true face. The teacher represents the very appearance of bodhicitta in the world. Like the rays of the sun represent the emanation phase or the movement of realization, this appearance of bodhicitta in the world is also like the rays of the sun, and it represents the appearance or movement of that realization that it was recognized as. This is the appearance, and in a deep mystical sense we come to understand that this appearance represents not so much an external authority figure that one should, I don't know, play all kinds of head games with. It represents our nature. The teacher then enables us, empowers us to awaken through connecting us with the path, through ripening our mind streams, through creating the auspicious connection with what is necessary in order to practice the path, through providing empowerment, lung or wind transmission, commentary teaching, all of these necessary components. And it appears like us, with our face. You guys are actually in the middle of something that's pretty amazing. It's, I think, someday in the future, may be considered not only amazing, but historical in the most profound sense. A real transition or movement in religion on this planet, and in our religion most of all. A real movement, a real transition, but here in the middle of it, we do not see this amazing golden nugget, which really isn't about the teacher, but is about us. It is about us. For us, the teacher is considered an object of refuge. We're holding up this face that looks like us. We're holding up something that is exactly like us. And from what we've been able to ascertain, she really doesn't even try to be that different. What's the message here? Don't you get it? It's not an opportunity for we as contemporary Westerners to simply practice more doubt. We can do that. You can do that anywhere. You can practice doubt anywhere. Why waste the opportunity that you have with your teacher? If you have to practice doubt, go practice doubt any place you want to. There's lots of places you can do it. Let's see. You can doubt that if you stick to a diet, you'll lose weight. You can doubt that when you read a label, what's on the can is actually what's in the can. You can doubt that what they say is so is so. You can doubt that you're reading the correct news in the newspaper. I know that people that work in government, when they hear how political news is reporting in the newspaper, it's like, ha, ha, ha. Isn't that funny? Because it isn't like that anywhere. So you can doubt that if you want to. You can doubt what's on TV. You can doubt that people that you see on TV really look like that in person. You have all kinds of room to doubt. Don't waste your Dharma opportunity on it. Once you decide to practice Dharma, get busy and get real. Instead, take advantage of something. And it's really up to you how you take advantage of it. Because herein lies the responsibility of the student. When this connection with Guru Yoga is actually formed. When this connection with the teacher is actually formed. Obviously, the teacher has all kinds of responsibilities. The teacher has to provide method. The teacher has to provide opportunity. The teacher has to mature and ripen the mind. The teacher has to commit to being with that student lifetime after lifetime, to meet with that student again and again and again, so that each and every single face that that teacher sees, that teacher considers that, therefore, I will never give up. I will never enter into nirvana without returning. I will never be a non-returner while one of these faces remains in the world in samsara. That is the teacher's responsibility. So, teacher's got a lot of responsibility. You must ask yourself, though, what is your responsibility? It isn't only the teacher that has responsibility here. It is your responsibility. Your responsibility to think, first of all, about what this means for you, and to use the opportunity well. Have you used the opportunity well? Will you use the opportunity well? This is tricky, because many of the thoughts that we have that are doubtful thoughts, that are thoughts based really on lack of awareness and ignorance, are invisible to us. They're invisible because they have constituted the framework of our experience. And it's, once again, let me use the analogy of it's kind of like being born on a merry-go-round. If you were born in a merry-go-round and had been there your whole life, you would never know it until someone stopped the merry-go-round. So many of the thoughts that you are involved with are habitual and invisible to you. Yet you have a responsibility here. The responsibility here is similar to, and it's less like, be a good girl, be a good boy, you should or should not do this or that. It's less like that than it is, to use an analogy, what would be your responsibility, let's say, if you were nutritionally deprived, hungry, and someone were to lay a balanced meal in front of you, a good, hearty, nourishing meal in front of you. Your responsibility there would be to pull yourself together. Pick up the fork. Begin to eat. Chew. You know, chew for real until the food is really mushy. And then you swallow it. That's also your job. And then you have an unconscious responsibility that you don't have that much control over. But it's still your responsibility. No one else can do this for you, and that is you must digest the food. And then after you have digested the food, you transform that food into usable heat, energy, awareness. And you eliminate what you do not need. It's not so different. It is not so different. You have a responsibility here. The responsibility is to not waste your time and that of the teacher. Do not waste this opportunity by not examining in a deep way what is occurring here and what is your path. Your responsibility is to digest, to take in nourishment, to open your eyes, to see what's in front of you, to make sense of it. If, on the other hand, you were nutritionally deprived and hungry, and someone were to lay good food in front of you, and even with as hungry as you were, even as malnourished as you were to waste your time by determining whether the presentation is agreeable to you. Like, do I want the meat over here, and the peas over here, and the mashed potatoes over here, or should I mix the mashed potatoes with the peas And let's see now. Green, white, brown. We need some orange. We'll put some carrots in there. I mean, this sounds a little silly. But supposing if you were really hungry and real malnourished, you would do that kind of thing. You would sit there and you would get into a head trip. Oh, I can't eat this, I mean, it's not well presented. And the gravy from the meat is getting on the peas. And I mean, there's only one green vegetable, so I have to put carrots there. And then, I mean, there's just so much wrong with it, I can hardly tell you. The forks are wrong. Supposing you were really hungry, real malnourished, and you just did that. Now, that sounds really silly. It doesn't, everybody's laughing, but guess what? And meanwhile, you're starving to death. And the food is getting cold. And the teacher is getting old. So your responsibility here is to get to the lay of the land and connect the dots. Now supposing, let's say, you were really, really starving, really hungry, and you came in and here was this beautiful food, this nice food. Well, no, of course it's not beautiful. We cooked with the gravy, got it. We already established that. The gravy and the peas have mixed. But we got this meal and it's really nourishing. It's really nourishing and you need it. You really need it. So you come in here and you go, well, I know I'm starving to death and I'm that far away from death, but I'm going to come in here and impress everybody with how I know how to put my napkin in my lap. And I know which fork to use. I've changed them back. They were crooked. And I know, not only that, but I have dressed for the occasion. I have my eating clothes on. Don't you see I have my eating clothes on? Can't you tell I'm an eater? So, I have my eating clothes on. So I'm all ready, and I just swoosh into the room, and I look really great when I eat. And I'm just posing to beat the band. And, it's a very romantic thing. I'm thinking about how amazing it would be if I could sit down to this food, and let's say the light is coming through the window just right, and the way it hits the food is so romantic. It's just so cool that this is happening the way it is, isn't it? You think that this is not the way we approach Dharma? Really, it's exactly the way we approach Dharma. We swish in and try to put on an act and act like we're somebody doing something, I don't know what. But do we eat? No. We don't. Now, you may not think this is a teaching about Guru Yoga, but it is. It is, because every single teaching about Guru Yoga is about accessibility, digestibility. It's about, can you eat it? It's about, can you accomplish Dharma? That's really what Guru Yoga is about. It is not about the teacher. It is not about somebody who, for whatever reason we cannot determine, needs to sit on a throne, wear a crown, and do this to us. That is not what it's about. And it's not the truth either. Guru Yoga is a study that we need to study because it is about us. Guru Yoga is about the appearance of enlightenment as it is in the world. It comes from our culture, our ground, where we are. It is about the appearance of enlightenment in the world. It is about you. Interestingly, if you think about it this way, there is a subtle message that we have to work against. And perhaps the practice of Guru Yoga will be helpful for you in that way. When we look on our altars, we see that there's a bunch of Asian guys up there. Oh, I know, if we think it through, they are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and it shouldn't matter, right? but they do have those funny eyes. So when we look at the mirror and we see ourselves as Dharma practitioners, do we see the face of enlightenment there? Is there a message here that's playing way under the surface that we're not hearing? Do we have prejudice? Are we spiritually bigoted? Do we think that enlightenment only appears in one form, in one culture? Because if we do, who cares what that means about the teacher? Think what it means about you. Because if enlightenment cannot appear in your culture as a contemporary Westerner, you better hang up your robes and go home. And if as a lay person, enlightenment can't look like you, why practice Dharma? If you don't believe it can look like you, talk like you, smell like you, act like you, have all of the same concerns that you do, then you don't believe you will ever achieve realization. You don't believe, as I believe, in your capacity. I don't have any problem believing that wisdom can appear, that bodhicitta can appear in the world in a Western form. I don't have any problem believing that. I don't have any problem believing that the full jewel of Buddhahood, that seed, can manifest as a Western human. I don't have any problem believing that. Do you? You need to examine this one deeply, because even if you say no, even if you say, well, I must not have a problem with this because after all I am listening to you teach and I am taking you seriously. If I were you, I would check it out a whole lot deeper than that, because there's a problem in there that we all need to handle. And there's a beautiful thing happening here that we all need to recognize. And that is that we are the same, you and I. We are the parents of the Buddha seed in ordinary reality. We are the potential of Buddhahood or enlightenment. We are that appearance of bodhicitta. And it is possible to awaken to that, because we have seen the face of that in an awakened state appear recognized as our teacher. This is what we've been told. And if we were to examine more deeply, we would understand this means something wonderful about us. The potential that this holds for Westerners is remarkable, is beautiful. But it's your responsibility to uncover the bigotry, the prejudice, the doubt. So that we can accomplish together. So you might think to yourself, was this some kind of revolution? I mean, my goodness, what are we talking about here? This is very different. Darn tootin', it's a revolution. We are here, and that is revolutionary. We started a monastery in Kham about 800 years ago, or however long it was. I can't remember, 400 years ago. Who remembers? Long time ago, in Kham, we started a monastery. We've started other monasteries, too. Yes, sentient beings have done this. We've done this, you know. And now here we are doing it again. and it has our face. You don't hear the miracle in that? For you? How amazing. How wonderful. And it gives us a new and different way to understand the relationship with our teacher. Because the teacher becomes for us not only a spiritual friend, not only a guide, but the very appearance of bodhicitta, the very appearance of Guru Rinpoche in the world, just as he said he would come as our root teachers. As a contemporary face, looks exactly like us. How amazing. I mean, if you really thought about it, you would be going, my heart, how happy my heart feels. How amazing that this miracle would appear as us. And that is an indicator of the relationship between student and teacher. Not only an educator, not only a provider, not only a facilitator, but if we truly understand the relationship between oneself and one's teacher. We come to understand that the teacher's appearance in the world is not different from our own appearance in the world. That the miracle of the appearance of these bodhisattvas in the world is the miracle of our own life, is the miracle of our own nature to which we can awaken. And should we fulfill our responsibility of understanding this more deeply, seeing the miracle and holding it precious, of zeroing in on the food, connecting the dots, picking up the fork, and nourishing ourselves, digesting, transforming into energy, eliminating waste, the whole thing. If we really understand what can happen here, this is nothing less than a miracle. This is the incredible and potent revelation of our path. The relationship with our teacher then becomes miraculous and precious. Beyond anything that we have ever experienced in the world, because we've experienced many things, even different teaching situations. We've learned a lot, we've done a lot. But every single event that we have engaged in rose up out of samsara, was comprised of that which is within the cycle of death and rebirth, and always resulted in that. This, for the first time, is something different, and it looks like us. There's such love in that. Don't you see it? Don't you think that, okay, let me explain this, let me put it to you this way. When I thought about what it meant for me, I'm a deep mystical thinker, I like to think deeply, this is my thing. So, when my teacher discovered me, when he recognized me and took this like half Jewish, half Italian woman from Brooklyn and put her on a throne and said, Mazel Tov. Well, he didn't say Mazel Tov. Here you are. Go for it. And said, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. And she sat there and went, how the heck did that happen? I had to do my deep thinking thing, and I had to ask myself, what does this mean? What does this really mean? As far as I can make out, it's a love story. You know? It's a love story. There's so much love in that. That somewhere I know in the past, I know that I have prayed to Guru Rinpoche himself. Please let me be reborn in some future time with those with whom I have connection. And no matter what the confusion is, no matter what difficulty there is, no matter how challenging it is, even if it is a land of barbarians where there is no Dharma, which is what a land of barbarians is translated as in Tibetan tradition. Even if that's the case, let me be reborn in that place for their sake. And it came true. Not only did it come true, but the very face of that enlightenment to whom I made those vows appears again, travels halfway around the world, and says, "Found you." And this is the Lama who, as a young boy, held the Kapala of my former incarnation in his hand and said, "If this Dakini is alive in the world, may I please find her." This is a love story. Don't you think that what's happening here is a love story? To be traveling on the path, going round and round in samsara, but still trying very hard to travel on the path, and then suddenly finding yourself in a life where you not only meet with your root guru again, not only are face to face with the appearance of bodhicitta in the world that you have ached for and prayed for, whether you know it or not, life after life, because that's the only way this could have happened, is that you've prayed for it. And it looks like me, like you, like us. And it is us. Amazing. Amazing. So our responsibility now is to cherish that and honor it and love it for what it is. To love that opportunity, to love the path, to love that face, the appearance of bodhicitta in the world, and to honor that by keeping up our end of the deal, our responsibility. As I've said, the main responsibility is to eat the food. But there's this one part that you got to think about a little bit. When the food is eaten and it's transformed into energy, what does that energy look like? What is that part of the responsibility all about? That responsibility looks like this. And it's the same for you that it is for me. We are not different. When I realize what my teacher has given to me, life after life after life, always finding me, always providing for me the opportunity to be of benefit to others, when I take in that nourishment and eat the food, here's what it looks like for me when it comes out as energy. I feel that I must transform that blessing into keeping my teacher's commitments and promises, into honoring my teacher's aspirations. I know that my teacher cares about one thing and one thing alone, and that is the liberation and salvation of all sentient beings. I will therefore eat the food and transform the blessing of that food into the energy required to do the same. I will honor my teacher, and I will honor this food by accomplishing my teacher's wishes, the liberation and salvation of all sentient beings. This is the responsibility of all students. In order to fully connect with the practice of Guru Yoga, you must understand the teacher has no wish to be singled out or honored or upheld in any particular way. That's not what the game's about. The teacher has one wish and one wish only, and that is to transform each and every Dharma student and practitioner into a perfect vehicle by which all sentient beings will achieve realization and be freed from suffering. In other words, if you want to do me a favor, since you think I'm doing you a favor, feed my sheep. That's it. That's all I want from you. I could care less if I ever saw another prostration. The only reason why I care about them is because I know that it helps you. It's a physical, ritual display that tunes the mind into the practice of refuge. So it's useful for you. That's why we do prostrations here. I personally can't stand them. It takes me forever to get through a room with you people. So that's what I want, and that's what I expect, and I know that that's what my teacher expects of me. We're in the same boat together. And so therefore, when I am with my teacher, I will not waste the opportunity. I will honor that opportunity as the appearance of my true nature, which is bodhicitta, in the world. I will cherish that meeting, that opportunity, as that which transforms adversity into bliss. That Buddhanature. And when I see that face that looks like my face, I will say thank you. And when I see that face that demands of me that I wake up out of the dullness and the sleep and the narcotic flavor of samsara and serve sentient beings so that they no longer suffer, when that is demanded of me, I will say, I love you. Thank you. Because who asks this of you? Who leads you? Who appears in the world now? It is the bodhicitta, which is our nature. This is how we must use our teachers. It kills me when I see old-time Dharma students who think they are so slick. And they'll say things like, well, for instance, with my guru, he's called His Holiness Penna Rinpoche because he's considered a Lama in such high regard, and he's the head of all the Nyingma, let alone the head of Payul. He's called His Holiness. And I've actually heard old-time Dharma students saying, well, you know, who does he think he is that he's called His Holiness, the same as the Dalai Lama? I mean, cut my heart out and slice it up into ribbons. Not because my teacher needs to be called His Holiness, he could care less. But if you think there's only one holy thing in the world, if you think there's one son of God, one daughter of God, you know, one holy thing in the world, one Dalai Lama, one Buddha, whatever, one of anything, and it's out there somewhere, don't even bother practicing a path. Just try to be a good person. That's as far as you'll get anyway. The point of Buddha Dharma is to see the holy as it is, to awaken to the nature. That's what the Buddha did. Buddha didn't say, I transformed into the Dalai Lama. Buddha said, I am awake. I am awake. Don't you see? It's about you. And the more that you stay in your head and play these games without love, without depth, without devotion, and hold yourself as so rigid that you simply cannot surrender to devotion, you will never surrender to your own true face. It is the hope and prayer of each and every Dharma teacher, if they are of pure intention, that you will use them. I hope you will use me. And I hope you will see how the same we are. And still be able to see what is holy. What is miraculous. Can you talk to it and still know it's holy? Can you dance with it and still know it's holy? Can you make jokes with it and still know it's holy? Can you exercise with it and still know it's holy? Can you go to a restaurant and eat with it and still know it's holy? If you can't, you will never know how holy you are. You will never know. So I beg you to honor yourselves, to honor your nature, by practicing Guru Yoga without pride and without fault. Do not see the Buddha Dharma happening here in this place in spite of the Western look. Understand that it is happening because of it. And you are that also. Give yourself a chance. They say that to not practice Guru Yoga is like going to the Dharma continent that is covered with jewels, wish-fulfilling jewels, and never picking one up, simply coming back with nothing. Instead, use this opportunity. Use it as a way to understand your own face. Try to understand what is precious and use it as precious. If you use your teacher as a way to have doubt, you use everything as a way to have doubt. It's a waste. It's a terrible tragedy. If you use your teacher as a way to discern the ordinary, it's a terrible waste. You use everything that way. Your responsibility is to pick up the jewel and notice that it is a jewel. Your responsibility is to bring it home with you and to know that you are that. If you use the path, if you use the teacher, if you use the method, if you use the Buddha and what the Buddha has brought to the world as just another playpen to play your usual stuff in, and you keep your ordinary mind up and running, and you keep your doubt and keep your pridefulness and keep your arrogance and keep your intellectuality and judge everything by superficial means, then basically you are using what is a wish-fulfilling precious jewel that can be found nowhere else, and you're trading it in for what? Pictures of food that have no nourishment for you, and you can't eat them. With a deeper understanding, you will come to know that this is really a story about you. That actually when we're practicing traveling the path from the ground of our nature, which is the primordial wisdom nature called Buddhahood, called the Buddhanature, that we are traveling on the path and we are achieving the result of enlightenment or Buddhahood, we will gradually come to understand that no distance has been traveled at all and nothing has been accomplished. Only this, that I have opened my eyes, and I have seen, and I have taken the nourishment, and I have practiced Dharma, and now I am awake. The Buddhahood that you will find will be the same Buddhahood that is your true face. And that is the practice of Guru Yoga in essence, the revelation of that face. The same pride that we have when we are unwilling to see the holy in front of us because we have judged that it cannot be holy in a contemporary world is the same pride that will keep us from achieving enlightenment. I don't care what you do to me. Don't do this to yourself. Nanda.